Within this room, we've got people from housing associations, from the transfer organisations, from local authorities, from the private sector. We've got probably the best representation from tenants I've seen in recent years. You know, Cardiff Residents Fed here, Welsh Tenants, the Tenant Advisory Panel are well represented. A real good cross-section of the community. And we all recognise one thing, that no one group, no one sector can sort out the problems that are confronting us. So it's my immense pleasure to ask our Minister, Sargeant, to address TAI 2014.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you, and it's not a conventional dress for a minister to turn up like this, but I was reading your agenda and I saw the little agenda item of "This is what feminism looks like," and I thought, I'm sure I've got a T-shirt that says that. Friends, it's great to be with you, and I thought I'd just show my solidarity with you about this is how this is important to me, and I know how important it is to you, and thank you for placing that on your agenda and the interesting discussions that surrounded that yesterday. Can I start thanking Keith for the opportunity to be with you and join you? And it was, ironically, 12 months ago, it was a really interesting day. I started as local government minister, ended up as housing minister, bit of a transition. And at the time, it would be no surprise, and people have heard me speak before, it was, I wasn't the most excited, to say the least, of just the change factor. So when I ask you to change, I understand it's really difficult getting from one place to another, but actually housing didn't at that point inspire me. But wow, have I come on a journey, and I've come on that journey with you. Because I absolutely get the fact that housing, or the home as I like to call it, and I encourage my department to call it, is fundamental to the way we shape our community and life in Wales and beyond. So it goes without saying the fact that I come here today full of praise, with thanks to you as organisations, to all our partners who are actually achieving a transition in our community in delivering housing, particularly affordable housing, which I know, as Keith, you mentioned, is a priority for CIH. It's certainly a priority for me and for Welsh Government. You see, the housing sector, I believe, has made a significant impact in Wales. During this term of government, we've had thousands of people have been able to access quality, affordable, and tens of thousands have had their homes improved through the housing quality standard and DQR systems. And that's before we start to think of the added value through community regeneration. And I know many in this room share that value about, as I said, the home is one part, the bricks and mortar is an element of change, but actually housing the home goes much more beyond that. So the community benefits, the financial, digital inclusion are just a few examples of the things that I know that you're engaged in changing what the housing sector does in our communities across rural and urban Wales. On new homes, I'm sure you've already seen the published figures last week showing the number of new homes has increased, and completions have increased compared to with the same quarter a year ago. We should be really pleased with that, but there's so much more we need to do and so much more work collectively we can do. The Help to Buy Wales scheme has a role in building the public confidence, the building construction confidence in the housing market. We've seen to date 390 applications since the launch, with 65% of them first-time buyers. Engagement with the developers has been a tremendous process. 87 businesses in Wales registered to date. So I also thank them for the proposals and support they've had and given to get people into the housing market, which many have been waiting for some time. Since 2011-12, we've delivered, with local authorities, 2,178 specific, that's actually quite an accurate number for one of my speeches. Empty private sector dwellings back into use, houses into homes, is now making a significant contribution, not just in a function of a new home, but actually, again, changing the communities where we see empty homes sometimes becoming a blight on our community, which has an effect in the regeneration aspect of what we are all trying to achieve. Nearly 133,000 households have benefited from and now living in social housing, meeting WHQS. A massive difference. And I've done some visits over the last 12 months where the significance of an upgraded or new kitchen or bathroom has a major effect on the living social quality of an individual's life in the way they live in their home. And again, I can't do that. But the teams that you work with deliver on the ground, first-hand, dealing with constituents, making that real difference. And so far, I've been able to try to protect as best possible the supporting people budget from the worst cuts that we've ever seen from the UK government in terms of having the impact on Welsh Government budgets down to yourselves. I've repeatedly said since my appointment as Minister, and as Keith alluded to, my priority has to be the increase and supply of homes across Wales. On the 4th of March, I was very pleased to announce that we've moved from the 7,500 manifesto target of affordable homes to a new target of 10,000 affordable homes for this term of government, a significant increase, but recognising there's so much more to do. I can't do that on my own. A common theme of my contribution here today is about working with you to make sure we can get there. Can I touch on the issue of the housing bill? As well as the everyday business of doing what we do in terms of my portfolio, I have a heavy schedule of legislation. You're not supposed to go R at that point and give me some sympathy, but I was going to have to try a little bit harder maybe. We've got the housing bill, the renting homes bill, and the planning bill, which is full of technical things around planning, and it's a silent P in my portfolio, but it does now take some work involved. I don't know why they didn't give it a title, but part of that is within the housing bill. You'll recognise that the housing revenue account subsidy system will change, given the opportunity now for places that are still that haven't stock transferred to start building homes again. Local authorities can have the opportunity to do that, and I'm really encouraged already by authorities like Cardiff and Anglesey, both at opposite ends of Wales, already thinking about how they can interact and deliver more homes. And I believe there is a vision for Wales where there is an opportunity to work with the social landlords and local authorities to build a compact together to start building more. And I relish the day that in Wales we can start to build local authority council housing homes again here in Wales. In response to the recommendations of the Housing Supply Task Force, I've asked officials to take through 4 strands of work. I'm sure many of you will have a particular interest in them. Planning reform, new opportunity, the use of publicly owned land for housing, getting the best out of our social housing grants, and innovation, thinking differently. We've come a long way in terms of what traditional housing meant and what it needs to be thinking about in the future. So different concepts of finance, of models, structure. What is it together that we can do to make that real difference for the need that we have in our communities? I've also decided to appoint a housing supply advisor to work with all sectors, including the private sector, to understand better what are them barriers to building. The vision, I want to see us exceed the new affordable homes target, bringing more empty homes back into use. But to make this happen, we will need to make that innovation. The Housing Finance Grant, again, very grateful for your involvement in terms of the delivery of that, supported by Welsh Government over 30 years. The delivery of around £125 million will fund approximately 1,100 new affordable homes in all our communities across Wales. Something, again, doing something different, which will deliver. But this has to be just the beginning of an alternative innovation scheme. What is it we do next? And I have a raft of officials who are busy beavering away looking at new opportunities, but actually I think many of them opportunities and many of them ideas could well be in this room today about what can we do together. And I urge you to work with partners, work with us to look about how we can start to think differently on delivery. That leads me quite nicely actually into the whole issue around the partnership approach. How do we work in partnership to deliver? Delivering more new homes has to be right at the culture and the heart of all of us in terms of that. And again, thank you for your priority you're giving around affordable homes. We in Wales will not ditch our commitment to building more affordable homes. Real affordable homes, not market-driven affordable homes. A big difference. Effective planning on the housing and jobs must be done because we know, again, the industry has a huge economic benefit for Wales. So there are many more examples of why we should build more homes, not just for a housing solution, but actually it builds strength into the economy, heartened by the processes that Ynys Môn and Gwynedd are looking at in terms of their local development plan, thinking together, that partnership approach about what is it we need together to deliver more in a better way. And I'm convinced more can be done across the 25 current planning authorities that we have in place. In advance of the Williams Commission, there's not many forums that I've been recently where Williams Commission hasn't come up. It's always in the back of their mind, whether it's the road to change for the positive end, but generally there's many that have brought it into light as a negative proposal in terms of what Williams was proposing. My view, I hopefully won't get shot by the First Minister, but my view is actually we have to change the way we do business. Just the whole structure, whether that be based around finance because of the reduction in budgets having to change, actually it's probably the right thing to do because 25 planning authorities, 22 local authorities, 40 on RSLs, etc. What is it we can do better together? Just because we did it then didn't make it right, but we should test the system, and that's what I think we can do pre-Williams. So anybody that uses Williams as a stopper for me, a bit of a smokescreen. Actually, together we can move forward. Whatever Williams says and whatever Williams does, we can do things better in housing together now. The second report from my Housing Supply Task Force, which I understand was launched at the conference today, again sets out some useful case studies highlighting what we are doing. So it's not a case that we're not already doing innovation, we're not doing things differently. Actually we are, but can we share that best practice better? Again, delighted that during the conference you've explored much more than the home. You've looked at the issues that are really important to me and the things that I touched on around safer communities, equality and good governance are fundamental to the way we operate safely in our community. People will recognise my commitment and I thank you all genuinely for your commitment. We held a conference only a few weeks ago on safer communities. I was astounded by the quality of debate, the quality of the enthusiasm moving forward to change. Friends, we've seen a report today out the HMIC saying around domestic violence and the way the police deal with issues. I'm saddened but heartened by actually we're raising the profile of what's happening in our communities. I'm heartened by the fact that South Wales Police is the second best police force in the whole of the UK dealing with perpetrators around domestic violence. But anybody to say to me that antisocial behaviour or domestic violence has a place in another portfolio is absolutely wrong. Domestic violence is fundamental to the way we operate in the home environment. One of the most unsafe places for somebody suffering from domestic violence is actually in the home. So what do we do collectively together? And I thank you all for taking this proposal forward about working together and how we can tackle this heinous crime. Delighted working with police commissioners, again as another partner. Deputy Police Commissioner Sophie Howe in South Wales is again leading the charge in another partnership agency, working with Welsh Government, working with RSLs, working with local authorities to change the way the system operates so that we know we can really make a difference. Wales can be, Wales will be, if we want to do this, a leader across the globe in tackling domestic violence and antisocial behaviour. And people in the housing business have a fundamental part to play. I will help you. You need to help me to get there. Can I touch on the issue of good governance? Again, really important to me. Making the right decisions is key to making a change in the community environment around the housing. One of the elements of governance that I'm particularly important to me is board diversity. Again, I'm pleased that we are starting to make some headway. It's on the table for change. In terms of gender, age, professional experience, in December, I asked housing associations to consider how they could apply good practice on board diversity and to include an action plan in improving the diversity of board members. I remember having the discussion, I think it was actually in here, where they were saying to me that board membership on RSLs was around 36%, I think, which wasn't bad, they said, about women, 36% women to the rest of them, 74% men. I said, well, when I went to school, equality meant 50-50 generally, and that's what I strive for. So together we can make this right. If we can't even get gender balance right on boards, what chances have we got about getting the rest of equality around the table? So friends, a real big passion for me. We can do this together. I'm hoping that we can get a pact signed off with associations about change and the way the structures approach. It will mean change, but you know, I'm talking about leadership. I will help you lead making the change for the right reasons about good choices in the governance arrangements of organisations. And yes, Keith, you stole my thunder actually, because I was going to congratulate you about the board membership of CIH. 9 women out of 16. Fantastic. Fantastic. You are on top of the game, and thank you for achieving that. With actually no pressure from me. You did it yourself, so why can't we all do that? One of the going very briefly back to the housing bill, one of the main parts of the bill is the registration and licensing of landlords and agents in the private rented sector. I believe, again, this will help improve standards in the increasingly important part of the housing market. Again, pleased last week that these provisions have been endorsed by Shelter and many organisations, including CIH, and I read the letter with great interest in the Western Mail last week, which helped immensely shaping the thought of actually thinking about tenants first as opposed to landlords' implications. We seem to forget, actually, we provide a service for people sometimes. Actually, it's the people that matter, and making sure that the relationship between the two works well, but that the argument isn't one-sided or skewed to an organisation that actually has a huge opportunity to influence the way the sector operates without thinking about the tenant in that place. So thank you for your support in that process. Shortly, friends, I'll be announcing, I assume, or presenting the certificates to the Rising Stars Welsh Housing Award. 3 finalists. Let me get this right. I started wearing glasses this week, but I was still a little bit vain. So Catherine Lewis, Kelsey Watkins and Lisa Evans, I'm really looking forward to seeing which one of you gets the award, but all 3 of you have done particularly well to even be in the finalists. You've clearly demonstrated to me, and I know you're avid tweeters, as I am, about the work that you do, and many in this room in terms of making the difference in what you do and how passionate you are in the sector. So friends, finally from me, I think I'm going to take a few questions, I think. Hopefully I'll be able to answer them as well. What I just wanted to finally say, you really do make the difference in our communities. I'm proud to be your minister. I hope that you see me as an enabler, Of course, we're not always going to agree, but let me just say the issue between change and no change lies in our hands. You can make the difference with me, and I want to be on that journey with you. Thank you very much for staying so late on the end of conference. Generally at the end of conference you never see this full. But friends, I really am indebted to you staying, and you really are with us making the difference. Diolch yn fawr i chi. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah.
Minister, James Rice, Tenant Advisory Panel member, travelling around Wales, talking to tenants, not just housing association tenants. There is a need for a panel similar to TAI to be the voice of council tenants. Would you do something about this?
Paul Hickman, North Wales Housing Association. Thank you, Mr. for this morning's address. And spot on at the end of the conferences that we've had over the last few days. One of the most recent sessions we had this morning was about the bills are alive. Not just the fact that we've got a housing Wales bill and a rented homes bill, but a whole range of bills. And each of our four speakers looking at different bills. And the challenge is clearly how we all play our part. Housing is either a significant part of each one or has an important role to play. And each of the speakers brought out the need for culture change. Culture change in one area is quite a challenge. Culture change in a whole range of areas, housing, planning, social services, even more so. I wonder if you've any sort of encouragement or advice for us in that respect as to how we can sort of harness the power of your position, if you like, in terms of culture change.
Good afternoon, Carl. My question is regarding the gender balance on boards. And I think the principle is a fantastic principle to uphold. But isn't there a danger, if you're not very careful, in striving to achieve the correct balance in gender, you could eliminate from very capable professional people who are better qualified to do the job?
Okay, I'll try and be brief as well. It's really hard for ministers not to talk, though. James, I think it was James about the tenants' participation. Absolutely right. I think for us, I'd like to think I was a listening minister. We may not agree, but actually it's really important I understand people's views. Tenants' advisory panels, absolutely critical in shaping the way performance is in housing, both not just bricks and mortar, but actually the whole social environment again. Let me put that into context so you don't think I'm being one-sided. Troubled times ahead. Actually, budgets are reducing, so I have to be sure that I'm getting the advice, best advice, back in from organisations that are able to deliver that. So is tenants' tenants' voice important? Absolutely. And do I want to continue that? Absolutely. In what guise? I don't know. So that's still up for grabs, but it's certainly a really worthy question in terms of making a point. The tenant's voice is important. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Paul, culture change. I can't legislate for culture change. That would be the easy bit, if I could. We've got a planning bill which I'm trying to, we're drafting, and we're trying to shape the way the planning system works. And not because I think it's broke, but I think it could be better. We need consistency, fairness, etc. But the culture bit is really hard, because what I want is, in planning as an example, is development control, development management as opposed to development control, and that's very different, but it is about changing people and the way they operate. So messaging for me is about what is it we're trying to achieve and how do we get there together? Now, there will be people that will stop and get in the way of delivery. We either have to go round them or remove them. I'm honest about this because I've got no time for messing about. Keith said I was probably straight talking. It gets me into awful trouble sometimes. The issue for me is, what are we trying to achieve and how do we get there? And once we've mapped that out, let's do it together. I don't underestimate that isn't an easy journey, but the things like ending violence against women bill, the tackling poverty agenda, the planning issue, absolutely has a home in the home environment of what we're talking about. So they are all intertangled, but we've got some fantastic housing associations, local authorities that really get this. We cannot allow just to stagnate and not change, because we'll fail. And who are we failing? The people that we represent. If you fail me, well, hey, I'll be upset. But actually, the people you really fail is your tenants that you're housing. That's what we've got to have our eye on at all decisions. So the human cost of change is really important about why we should or we shouldn't do, not the self-interest of some individuals that sometimes don't want to change because it's really important to them. Final point, John, gender balance. I'm glad you raised this one because this one's really important to me. I don't subscribe to the idea that there isn't people out there that can't do the job because they're man or woman. Actually, the problem is usually enabling somebody else to do the job. They don't get the opportunity to do that. So I'm proposing some radical changes in the way we move forward. Now, this will be hated by some people. This will be hated by the people who have been on boards for 20 years, that there is a right for them to be on the board, and I genuinely praise some people who have been in organisations that have shaped the direction for change. But I wholeheartedly believe, this is really passionate me, I really, really believe that women and men have a great, can add value to organisations. Absolutely. We can't even get that right because it's generally dominated by white elderly men. That's a strong message from me, and I don't think we shouldn't not have white elderly men on boards, but I actually think we should have a much diverse board which includes women and includes men, and actually we get that right, we can introduce all the other issues around equality, which I'm absolutely madly passionate about. So the principle of change has to happen. I've already had people saying to me, yeah, but okay, well, we agree it's a great idea, the principle's right, but give us some time to change. Well, I'll give you some time to change, but it will only be a short period of time to change, because actually what I want to do is support the mechanism so that we get better choices, better governance. People in the right place to make the right decisions at the right time does mean diverse boards. Now, controversial with some people, but hey, I've never been one to shy away from controversy. We're moving ahead of this, so I thank you for all the members who are on boards, actually. You do a tremendous job, but we need to challenge the organisations about why we're not heading in this direction. So I think I've answered all the 3 questions.
Great, thanks. Okay. We've got one very pleasant duty now. I'm going to ask Carl to stay at the podium. Carl mentioned our outstanding candidates, Lisa, Catherine and Kelsey. The age-old saying is there can only be one winner, but in many ways you've impressed us with everything you've done over the last 3 days. So without further ado, in sort of Oscar ceremony fashion, I'm going to slip this along to Carl, and he's going to announce the winner and ask him to come to the stage to collect the certificate.
Okay, this could go horribly wrong, but they've only given me one name, so I think that's a huge relief. Friends, no, it's true, it can happen. Friends, again, echoing Keith's words there, you 3 have done a tremendous job in terms of shaping the environment and the work that goes on. Can I ask for the Rising Star Cymru 2014 winner to come forward, and a round of applause please for glasses time, Lisa Evans.